Everybody, let's go down some rabbit holes today that, believe it or not, apply to the current geopolitical situation that's happening in the world right now, as Iran was just annihilated by U.S. bombers in Israel. This was hours after China sent mystery flights into Iran. Some believe maybe nukes. And just hours after Tulsi Gabbard has now retracted everything she said about Iran's claims that essentially they were only seeking peaceful nuclear power and not weapons. These are strange times, you guys. Now, check this out. This is an animation from 13 years ago, almost to the day. June 25th, 2025. I'm sorry, 2012. June 25th, 2012 is when the images on your screen released of a mosque being bombed by 3 bombers. And I couldn't help but think to myself, 3 nuclear sites in Iran hit in the last 24 hours by U.S. bombers. 3 sites, 3 bombers. In fact, one of the nuclear sites, one of the 3 that was hit, is just 20 miles away from a particular mosque on a hill that looks a lot like this one, an iPad Go-To from 13 years ago, almost to the day. What am I talking about? This is the site of Qom, Qom. And as you can see, there are some similarities, aren't there? 20 miles from the nuclear site that we just took out with 3 bombers. Now, to give context to all this mosque in iPad Go-To is more of a symbol than an actual physical location. We've compared this mosque to others that seem to fit in as well, like the Hagia Sophia in Turkey, and a few others over the years since this animation came out. We've also found that a lot of the symbolism in iPad Go-To seems to have multiple meanings, doesn't it? Meanings within meanings. But the irony of this, right? Now, of course, it's not an exact match, but it does have a single minaret. It does have a single dome. It is perched atop a hill. It does have these kind of antenna-like things around the edges of it. Okay, here's some more images of it. This is it perched atop the hill. It's kind of specific, isn't it? Here are some more images. This is called the Khizr Mosque. Here it is up on the hill. And again, you have these kind of unique railings here, which could represent some of this here. Pretty specific, isn't it? Wow. So here is the map. Here are the 3 nuclear sites we just took out within the last 24 hours. Here's Fordo, this northernmost nuclear site, close to Tehran. And here you see this lake feature. Well, check this out. This is Fordo. And as you can see, Qom Khezr Hill is literally 20 miles from the site in Iran. So is this what they're talking about? I don't know. But it's kind of eerie and bizarre, isn't it? Now, what happens in iPad Go-To after that particular bombing? Well, it's posted up here on YouTube. You can find iPad Go-To. It's about 7 minutes long. And just after that scene, a child, a dervish child, rises up from that bombed mosque, suggesting maybe some kind of holy war. Now, the reason why we also compared that mosque to the Hagia Sophia was because there were dervish children that were killed in the dome collapse of the Hagia Sophia thousands and thousands of years ago, or I guess centuries ago, not thousands of years. But they were killed in that dome collapse. And so there are overlays. It's hard to know specifically what iPad Go 2 was talking about, but there are several instances of precognition. This isn't the only instance. There are several instances of precognition in iPad Go 2 that we've found over the years. Things that hadn't happened yet playing out in our reality. Just insane. I wonder if the implosion here, if you could overlay that over the country of Iran, and if it would be like the same, where it's broken there. I don't know. But pretty crazy to say the least, right? Now, today we're going to get into biblical prophecy, Zechariah 14, which sounds like it's talking about some kind of zombie apocalypse. We're going to read Zechariah 14, and today's show will fit well into tomorrow's show as well. So today we're going to cover one zombie movie, and then tomorrow we'll be covering 28 Days Later, a second zombie movie that just released in theaters. I was able to screen that and decode it. I'll show you the trailer to that at the end of the show today. For those of you that stick around, I'll show you the trailer at the end of the show. You guys, times are getting really weird. So the show that we're going to cover today is this film, The Night That Eats the World. Now, I hadn't seen this zombie movie, so I'm like, I need to watch this. It's from 2018. This is what we're going to cover today. We're also going to get into Trump's flagpoles, his twin flagpoles that are 88 feet tall. And that's all about the twin towers. We're going to talk about that as well today. But this is The Night That Eats the World. And we're pretty much going to talk about this today. I don't have clips from this for you because I'll explain why in a minute. There really wasn't a lot of content in the movie to actually show you, and it's probably better to talk about it. This will be tomorrow's show, 28 years later. Literally, they show us the Giant's Causeway as tree stumps. So I'm going to break all that down for you guys tomorrow. Well, let's go ahead and get started, you guys. So how did I go down this rabbit hole? How did I find this film, The Night That Eats the World? Well, I thought to myself, since 28 years later came out, I wonder if there were any zombie movies over the past 10 years that might have clues as to what's going on. And then this one came up into my radar, a film that I hadn't seen before. So I thought I should take a look. Now, the reason why I wanted to take a look is because this film came out just before the pandemic. And I thought maybe there were some clues about what was going to happen next. Now, I've always thought that COVID and the quote unquote cure were segues to a wider zombie apocalypse at some point. We've always said that since the beginning, even since before the pandemic. And Zechariah 14 speaks about a zombie apocalypse happening to all the nations of the world, it says. We're going to read Zechariah 14 because this is chilling. I didn't know about this until this point. But essentially, God summons the nations of the world to Jerusalem to face judgment. All the nations of the world, which means that every nation will face judgment. It sounds like he's talking about Armageddon here, and I'll read it. I'm just giving you a summary. And then it says that every person that came against God's people, not a geographical Israel, in the same way that the New Jerusalem won't be a Won't be the same physical location. It's a different location, different peoples. Now, Face Like the Sun YouTube channel did an awesome video proving scripturally that Israel is not a physical geopolitical location. It's all the believers grafted in. He gave some really solid biblical evidence for that. So check out Face Like the Sun in his video on Israel. But let's read this about this zombie apocalypse and try to see it through the lens of what just happened in Iran. So Zechariah is describing the days just after Armageddon, after God sends the nations against Jerusalem to take it, and then he smites them. And this implies that all of the nations of the earth will face judgment. God then stands and rules in Jerusalem, where there is one long continuous day. There is no night in the presence of the Lord. He then sends a plague to all those that fought against him. Now, understand that those that fought against him were the same ones that he called to judgment. Pretty chilling, isn't it? Let's read. Behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. So, sounds like half the city will go into captivity in Jerusalem. Where's Jerusalem right now? Wow. And the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east and toward the west. And there shall be a very great valley. And half of the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it toward the south. And ye shall flee to the valleys of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal. Ye shall flee, like as ye fled from before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. And the Lord my God shall come, and all the saints with thee. And it shall come to pass in that day that the light shall not be clear nor dark, but it shall be one day, which shall be known to the Lord, not day nor night, but it shall come to pass that at evening time it shall be light. So it's like one long continuous day. And it shall be in that day that living water shall go out from Jerusalem, half of them toward the former sea, and half of them toward the hinder sea. And in summer and in winter shall it be. And the Lord shall be king over all the earth. In that day shall there be one Lord, and his name one. So this is pointing toward a future event, because obviously Satan is still ruling this world, hence the reason why we have chaos in the world, why we still have death, right? We don't have everlasting life yet, so this has not happened yet. We're still waiting for the Lord to be crowned and our peace to happen. Let's keep reading here. All the land shall be turned as a plain from Geba to Rimmon, south of Jerusalem, and shall be lifted up and inhabited in her place from Benjamin's gate unto the place of the first gate, unto the corner gate, and from the tower of Hananiel unto the king's winepress. And men shall dwell in it, and there shall be no more utter destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. And this shall be the plague. Now listen closely, because here is the zombie apocalypse. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes or their eye sockets, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. Doesn't say they die. It says they'll be basically walking zombies. Now, who does this apply to? The plague applies to all that fought against Jerusalem. Who were they? All of the nations of the world that God caused to descend on Jerusalem. The armies. Now, this is sounding a lot like Armageddon. I don't know that to be the case, but let's keep reading here. And it shall come to pass in that day that the great tumult from the Lord shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of the neighbor. And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the heathen round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel in great abundance. And so shall be the plague of the horse, of the mule, of the camel, and of the ass, and of all the beasts that shall be in these tents as this plague. So it sounds like the plague is also going to affect the animals. And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all of the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. And it shall be that whoso will not come up of all the families of the earth unto Jerusalem to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, even upon them shall be no rain. So there will be a drought for those that do not come to worship the Feast of Tabernacles. And if the family of Egypt go not up and come not, that have no rain, there shall be the plague. So they're also going to get affected by the plague, wherewith the Lord will smite the heathen that come not up to keep the Feast of Tabernacles. This shall be the punishment of Egypt and the punishment of all nations that come not up to the Feast of Tabernacles. And in that day shall there be upon the bells of the horses holiness unto the Lord. And the pots in the Lord's house shall be like the bowls before the altar. Yea, every pot in Jerusalem and in Judah shall be holiness unto the Lord of hosts, and all they that sacrifice shall come and take of them, and seethe therein. And in that day there shall be no more the Canaanite in the house of the Lord of hosts. This last passage, there shall be no more the Canaanite in the house of the Lord, inferring that all this came about because the Canaanites were in the house of the Lord of hosts. Pretty chilling, isn't it? So, Zechariah 14. At this point, my interest was piqued. So, back to the film, The Night That Eats the World, and how all this fits in. So I did my normal checks that I always do with the release dates and everything on these films. And lo and behold, March 7th was the French release date, 99 days before Trump's birthday. Three months, 7 days. The third month, March the 7th. 3/7, March 7th, 99 days before Trump's birthday. Now, what is the significance of this other than the strange numerical synchronicities that I just told you? Well, 99 red balloons was something we talked about long before the pandemic. We discovered, even back then, that the 99 red balloons matrix was all about disease and plague and a pandemic. It's one of the many Holy Spirit inspired warnings on this channel that actually came to pass, that actually happened, that we were on and on about, that very few believed. Many of you will remember the Death Magnetic Metallica music video that we decoded before the pandemic. The Death Magnetic later we found was all about the graphene, which is on their album cover for Death Magnetic. It's essentially a coffin surrounded by graphene. And in the music video, many of you remember this decode. I've replayed it a few times. In the music video and the decode, balloons came over the jet stream from China and started a zombie apocalypse in America. The balloons followed the exact same path as we were told COVID spread a few years after that decode. The same pre-COVID path from Seattle across the United States, from San Francisco across the United States, the same path that the eclipse followed in 2017 that we also covered. We were also tracking bad flu seasons leading into the pandemic. And the reason why this was all about the red balloons is because remember in Australia, during that really bad flu season, I believe it was 2017 or 2018, they were tying red balloons to the sewer grates. And I told you that had something to do with the It clown, Pennywise. Something about the swamp and the sewers. And many of you remember how urgently I was trying to warn everyone that something was coming. All this happened before the pandemic, you guys. We linked these balloons to Operation Cherry Blossom from World War II when the Japanese launched plague balloons once again over the Pacific. And then the end of 2019, 2020 went down in history as basically all of that happened. So I start screening this film, The Night That Eats the World. And I'm watching the film and I'm like, okay, what's going on in here? Well, it's just this guy. The whole film is centered around this guy. And he wakes up after passing out in a room at a party. And he wakes up and he finds out that the entire world has turned into zombies. So what does he do? He clears the building very carefully. He's almost bitten several times. And he holds up in this building for months and months, waiting for something to change. He becomes increasingly lonely and paranoid as the winter approaches. And he sees a cat. He sees a cat that he wants to make his pet. Now, this is another component of our decodes that we've done. These were post-pandemic. We were looking at this whole cat matrix and disease and all this, right? I shared with you how I picked up a disease from a cat called cat scratch fever. The Bartonella Hensley virus, Bartonella Hensley, I think it's a bacteria or virus. I can't remember. I actually suffered from that in the years just after 9/11. And I think that God made me suffer that for a reason, because somehow this is all going to fit in to these end times, because they keep showing us the cats, don't they? We did another zombie movie that literally predicted Trump, and the guy was wearing a hat, Make America Great Again, and it was all about a zombie apocalypse, and it had cats in it as well, remember? So this is repeated in this film with this cat thing. Let's go into the plot here so you guys can kind of follow along, because this is important. So, desperate for company, he attempts to capture a stray cat wandering aimlessly among the undead, but he's nearly killed by several zombies. So he's trying to lure this cat in, but he almost dies. It almost becomes the death of him. And then this zombie comes up the lift, which is an elevator, and he almost is able to enter the building, which would have meant certain death for the main character. And he closes the lift and he ties it with a leather belt, but it's almost like he wants to keep this zombie around for entertainment. He starts talking to the zombie and like making friends with him as he's basically starting to go insane because he has no human interaction. So this is the zombie. So of course, I looked this guy up who came up in the elevator. Are you ready for this? He's a Gemini. And he was born just a couple days after Donald Trump. This is the zombie, Dennis Levant, that the main character kept as a pet in the elevator. Wonder if the elevator means the demonic possession, the possessive agent, whatever, however they do this, however they drop these demons into new bodies. It likely has something to do with an elevator. We've covered that even in the past, haven't we? The elevator is a metaphor for the possession. Down through time, demon possession. This is the guy who plays a zombie, born 2 days after Trump. Wow, Geminis. At some point, these zombies, actually another survivor enters the building. Go back into the chat here. Good morning, everybody. Another survivor enters the building, but he thinks it's a zombie and he shoots and kills her. And it's this woman. And so then the next several 20 minutes of the film, it's him, like, basically, he has like some kind of episode where he thinks she's still alive, but she's really not. So he's talking to the dead corpse. And at some point, he's finally forced out of the building to the neighboring buildings. And he's able to get there by using grappling to swing over to the other buildings. And that's where pretty much the film ends. Now, this whole thing takes place in Paris under the Eiffel Tower, which we now know through our research is a giant hypodermic needle. How do we know that? Well, I've got a whole playlist on it of all the needles in the world. The Eiffel Tower is one of them from the aerial view. It's the tip of the needle. There's other components in the landscape. But based on extensive research that we did, we found these needles all around the world. There's one in Washington, D.C. It's the Washington Mall. And the Capitol forms like the finger plungers of the needle. The Washington Monument is the actual tip of the needle, much like the Eiffel Tower is. I've got a whole playlist on it, you guys. There's also the needle in Seattle that we've identified definitively as a hypodermic needle as well. The Vatican is another hypodermic aerial needle. So if you're interested in that, there's a whole playlist on the needles. I outline them in Google Earth. So, pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Are you guys having audio problems? Someone said they're having audio problems. Of course. Now let's get into this flagpole matrix, because this is creepy. Now, Trump did something strange on Juneteenth. Well, just before Juneteenth. It was actually June 18th when he did this. He constructed twin flagpoles. Let's take a look. Let me do a sound check real quick first, and then we'll get into this. I had to reboot my computer a couple times just before the show. Things weren't working quite correctly. Okay, everyone says the sound is great. Okay, good. Let's keep going. So, something weird happened on the day leading up to Juneteenth. Trump constructed twin flagpoles, 88 feet tall. Now, it's weird. Some of the sources say 100 feet, as it says in the New York Post, but local sources say 88 feet. Whoa. Now, follow me here, because this is crazy. I was blown away. You guys, just a few days before this story broke, we did a show telling you that the Twin Towers were two 8-sided columns. For those paying attention, you'll remember that. It's almost like Trump's following the channel. Twin 8-sided columns, 88. We talked all about this. And then up go these flagpoles. 88 feet tall. Twin flagpoles. I believe what's probably really at play here is the Holy Spirit is dropping clues of things that aren't happening yet. This happens every week on this channel. I try to call them out, not to glorify myself, but to glorify the Most High, because obviously that's where the source of it came from. Now, these twin flagpoles were an obvious reference to the Twin Towers, and I'll explain that to you in case you're a little bit lost about that. They're an obvious reference to the Twin Towers. June 18th. So I looked it up. June 18th, when the flagpoles went up. And what do we have here? The 169th day of the year with 196 remaining. That is a yin and yang date. It's the mixing. Holy smokes. There's the weird thing about all this. I wanted to see how many days there were between when the flagpoles went up and 9/11, right? Because that makes sense. How many days between when the flagpoles went up and 9/11? So I punched it in the computer, the calculator, and I hope you're sitting down for this one. I punched it in, but then I didn't see anything. And the Holy Spirit said, go back the other way in the calendar. In other words, from 9/11 the previous year to the date that the flagpoles went up, and bada bing, bada boom, 280 days, which is the exact gestational period of a human child in the womb. From the last date of menstruation. 40 weeks, you guys. 40 weeks. Now, I know that they always tell you it's 38 weeks, and it is after conception, but from the time, the full time of last menstruation, which is when the egg releases, this is all medically known, okay? I'm not making anything up. It is a full 40 weeks. And that's hidden from us. Why do you think that they focus on the 38 weeks instead of the 40? It's because the 40 is the key to unlock everything. What are you talking about, Casey? 40 weeks is 280 days. And a woman, her cycle is 28 days. So we have a connection, don't we? 28 days, 280 days. Either she has 28 days and there's no child, or she has 280 days and there's a child. Do you see how this works now? This is insane. These are secrets that are being unlocked. And if people knew that it was 40 total weeks, they would also start to open their Bibles, wouldn't they? Why would they open their Bibles? Because they would be like, the flood was 40 days and nights. And priesthood usually happened at 40 years old. And Moses was at the top of the mountain for 40 days. And Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 days. And the Israelites were in the wilderness for 40 years. That must mean something. And Jesus recounted his generations after Abraham. 14 and 14 is 28. And there was a second 14, or third 14, I'm sorry. That was the exile in Babylon, for a total of 42 total generations. All these secrets are unlocked. Now, how does that apply to 9/11? Well, are you ready for this? This is crazy. How does this apply to 9/11? Well, how long did the towers stand? They stood for 28 years. They opened in 1973. I know they started building them in 68, but they opened in 73 and they came down in 2001. That's 28 years. 9/11 was a birthing ritual. It was all about seed mixing and ritual birth. And the whole 88 thing, it's DNA. It's a portal. It's the twin spirits becoming one in the lamp of your body. It is demonic possession. This is why when the two towers fell, they built one in its place in the shape of a sulfur molecule, an antiprism, an S8 molecule. God is amazing, isn't he? Revealing all this to us. What are we going to do with it? Many of you have been asking me to do more body code stuff. Well, here you go. And now you know what the 28 days later zombie franchise is really all about. It's the rebirth of man into the beast, into zombies, no flesh left, the flesh falling away, the Zechariah zombie curse. It all fits. And it all comes back full circle to 9/11. It's as if the event and how you view it is separating the sheep from the goats. Those who are against God and against his true people versus those who are awake to the lie. Those who side with the false Israel and believe the official story, and those who are awake to the lie. You know, when a day goes by where I think I won't find any more of this stuff and we keep finding it, I just get humbled every single day. And sometimes I wonder when God is going to turn off these dreams and visions that I've basically been experiencing for the last 12 years. And every day I wake up, I wonder, will this be the day where he turns it off? But then I also realize that when he finally does decide to turn it off, that means that it's almost over. And that will actually be a good day, won't it? Because we'll know we're close to the end. Now, tomorrow is going to be a big day. The film 28 years later, which is set in the year 2030. They literally show the Giant's Causeway as tree stumps. Now, I'm going to show you the trailer because I promised to do that for you guys. This is insane. This is just insane. There's the proof on the 40 weeks. Now, weirdly, I spent 15 years of my previous life doing women's health care. I had to learn all this stuff. It's almost as if I was meant to do what I'm doing now. Like God was preparing me. I had to learn the gestational cycle of a child, and how a woman's reproductive system works. The seed of the woman, Jesus Christ. Makes it all very real, doesn't it? Now, I've got to be careful with this trailer I put together for you because I think they're very sensitive about it. Sorry about that. Let's turn the volume down. Now, I'm not going to do too much explaining because we're going to decode all this tomorrow. But essentially, it's all about the prophecy of Zechariah. Listen.
Dad, what's happening?
Nothing that hasn't been most perfectly foretold.
I'm so scared, Dad. I know my sister will be dead.
Boy goes into church. Zombie apocalypse impending. It's all been foretold.
Not dead, saved. This is a glorious day.
As the zombies enter the church.
The day of judgment.
The day of judgment. Scottish Highlands trump all over this film. All over it. Teletubbies TT 2020. The pandemic. I'm going to be pausing this intermittently because like I said, copyright. I don't want this show to get taken down because of these clips. There's the plague. Zechariah 14.
Oh, Spaggy.
The kid's name is literally Spike Protein.
Oh, me baby. You know, I didn't mean to make a fuss. It's me head.
The main actor was born a day before Trump.
So what's this, Spike?
It's the causeway.
The Giant's Causeway.
Talk us through it.
It's the only way to the mainland. The sea covers it.
Can we swim it in high tide?
No, sea. We'll drown.
The tree stumps on the Giant's Causeway, which we've been saying for 10 years. They literally show you a tree stump. And I'll recount all of those videos that we did a year before even There Are No Trees on Flat Earth videos that went viral. Our videos didn't go viral, but we were already talking about the tree stumps all around the world.
This is where we get all the fuel.
A giant chases them down the causeway, literally, as you see 666 over their head with birds.
Get up now!
Can't make this up. I'll play the rest of this tomorrow. I don't want to give the rest away, and I don't want to not do it justice by doing a detailed decode on this. Okay, I'm back in the chat, you guys. Mind blown. Now, there's no need for fear. As I always tell you, all this means is that we're approaching the end times. Get right with God. We're supposed to be rejoicing in these times. But if you're invested in this world, if you're invested in your stock portfolio and siding with countries and nations that Zechariah says will all be brought to judgment, then you might have something to worry about. But if you're not part of this world, which is what Jesus told us, we're in the world but not part of it, then you're looking forward to the future kingdom. You're looking forward to everlasting life. You're looking for perfect health and bodies, a new Jerusalem and a new earth. And you're excited about these times ending because we're not invested in this world. We're kind of hunkering down. We're living a minimalist lifestyle. have the things that we need to weather whatever storm we're going to have to go through until Jesus returns so that we're not compromised. That's where we're at right now. So there's no need for fear at all. Those living in fear are the ones worried about World War III, worried about this, or beating the war drums after a president said he was going to be the president of peace. All right. I'm back in the chat, you guys. Yes, the fallen angels used the trees. The trees were once the highway. They were the causeway to the garden, I believe. I'll explain all this tomorrow. And then they were cut down. It was like Jack and the Beanstalk. Think about it. Think about it. We are in a lower realm. Where were Adam and Eve kicked out of the garden to? They didn't go up, because the further you go up, you go to heaven, right? They came down out of the garden. The garden is above us. Think about the levels of spirituality. Think even about the heavens in the book of Enoch and how it's described, the various heavens. They always go up toward God. The garden is not gone. Nowhere in the Bible does it say the garden was destroyed, so it's somewhere. Where is it? It's above us. How do you get back? Well, you can't. Jesus is the only way. So, all right. Well, I guess we're going to pop off here. That was a long show with a lot of information. You might have to watch this twice, especially if you're in the chat. Because this is very, very groundbreaking information, you guys. This is next level in understanding to give us some clarity in these last days about what's coming and how close we are. I love each and every one of you. Thanks for showing up. Have a great rest of your day. Much love.